So a very good morning to all the participants and a very good morning to our speakers, Dr. Vikram Kanodia sir and Dr. Srini sir. I would also like to welcome our Director Students Welfare, Dr. J.N. Srivastava sir, who is in the meeting. So thank you all the participants for joining this workshop on emerging trends and opportunities in agribusiness. So I hope this will be a great learning experience for you. So to start the session, I would like to call Dr. J.N. Srivastava sir for his welcome address. Sir, please. Sir, you are on mute, sir. So please unmute yourself. Srivastava sir, please unmute yourself. Sir, you are not audible, sir. Can you please unmute yourself? Uh, he is facing some connectivity issues. No problem. I will join with sir later on. I'd just like to introduce our speakers to you. So Dr. Vikram Kanodia, he is currently serving as Associate Professor of Extension and Evaluation at Community and Regional Development at the University of California, Davis. He has a robust background in research methodology. So I'm a fan of his lectures and I watch his lectures on YouTube. Okay, so his work is dedicated to enhancing evaluation practices across various sectors. His career spans significant roles, including evaluation specialist at the University of Wisconsin, Extension's Environment Resources Center, where he collaborated closely with educators and partners to design and implement evaluations for agricultural conservation and environmental programs. Prior to joining University of California, Davis, he contributed as postdoctoral researcher at esteemed institutions like University of Connecticut and Iowa State University. His academic journey began with a bachelor's degree in India from Acharya N.G. Ranga Agricultural University, followed by a master's and doctoral degree in agricultural extension from Iowa State University. So his dedication in bridging research and practical application is shaping the evaluation practice, and his work on evaluation is really great, which must be studied by all the extension professionals. So joining him is Dr. Srini Konduru sir, who is serving as department chair at the Jordan College of Agricultural Sciences and Technology at Fresno State University, California. His expertise lies in agribusiness management, policy analysis, regulation, and also is bringing invaluable insights into agricultural economics and management strategies. His leadership at Fresno State University underscores his commitment to advancing agricultural education and policy, contributing significantly to the field through research and academic leadership. So together, these two speakers are committed to excellence and innovation in their respective domains. So we are lucky enough that Sir accepted our request to speak on this occasion. So, sir, I would like to inform you that we have started a new agribusiness course in our university, and our first batch is has already started. They are in the second semester now. So we have great expectations for our agribusiness students. So this will be a great insights. This session will provide them great insights regarding agribusiness and opportunities ahead. So I thank you on behalf of our university and on behalf of our Directorate of Students Welfare for this. So before we begin, there are a few ground rules for the participants. So please keep your microphones muted throughout the session. And secondly, you are encouraged to ask questions, but only in the chat box for now. After the session ends, we'll invite your suggestions and also your comments online also. And also towards the end of the session, we will be sharing a feedback form in the chat box. So all those who will fill the feedback form, they will be getting a participation certificate. So please don't worry for that. So thank you, professors, for joining us today. So the floor is now open for you now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aditya, and for this opportunity for given to both of us. And It is the first time for myself. I don't know about Dr. Vikram, but to participate in any event organized by Bihar Agricultural University. We are very honored to be present here today with all of the esteemed guests. Thank you, Dr. Srivastava, for giving us this opportunity to present to your students, faculty, and staff. And we are looking forward to a very productive dialogue today. And I have a small presentation that we have prepared. Both Dr. Kaundinya and myself will give the presentation, and then we'll continue the discussion using the presentation as a foundation. So it's just some queuing points that will help us continue the dialogue. So let me share my screen. And if Dr. Aditya, can you please confirm whether it is visible or not? Sharing.
So I have already given you the sharing rights, so I think it will not be a problem. Yes, sir, it is visible.
Is visible, right? So let me.
Yes, sir. Good
Is that
enough.
good?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right. So we titled under the advice of Dr. Aditya Sinha and Dr. Srivastava ji, we have titled this presentation as Emerging Trends and Opportunities in Agribusiness and Agricultural Program Evaluation. So our plan is to cover the following topics. So the initial 20-25 minutes we'll be spending upon the various emerging trends and opportunities on a global level, not specific to United States or not specific to Indian conditions, but overall around the world, what is happening out there and how an agribusiness candidate, looking for jobs or further professional development in that area can get ready, to face those challenges, and obviously with the opportunities that come along with those challenges. So that is the kind of, I tried to group them up under 4 headings: technological advancements, sustainability factors, changing consumer preferences, and global political and economic factors. I'll be going a little deeper into each one of these groups and to open up more ideas and talking points for us later on. And also later on, we'll be talking about entrepreneurship and innovation in ag business. What is the status presently in India in that kind of sector? And then Dr. Kaundinya will talk about ag business education and role of evaluation in ag business. So we hope to complete all this presentation within about 45-50 minutes, and maybe up to an hour probably. And then we can leave the rest of the time for a question and answers or dialogue between all of us. We'll be happy to answer any of the questions that you might have. So coming to the emerging trends and opportunities, as I said, I tried to, it is such a big topic. There is nobody can, I believe, can do justice to compile a presentation of about an hour to cover all of those emerging trends and opportunities, but we tried to group them up under 4 headings so as to cover as much as possible those emerging trends. And these are all kinds of challenges in some way, as well as opportunities. People for youngsters like you, the students who are going to be the future. For you, these are the challenges, and also quite a bit of opportunities for you to, to control those environment, to control those factors, and do something for the global humanity out there. So let me go into first of these technological advancements, again, under which there are the advancements are happening in different directions. So one of them is through this precision agriculture, under which we grouped artificial intelligence, robotics, and Internet of Things, and then biotechnology and bioengineering. These are all basically bio-inspired technologies, biology-inspired technologies. And then blockchain technology is one, and controlled environment agriculture. So let me go a little bit deeper into each one of them, again, spending a few minutes on each of them, so that we are on the same plane as to where we are. And first comes the precision agriculture. So it's basically used as an umbrella term, as you all know. for using modern data-driven technologies for growing crops. So basically, it is a lot of data gets generated out there, right? When you are growing a crop, or now that we have the ability to collect the data, measure the data, and then analyze the data. So we are living in a data-rich world. So how do you utilize the data which is getting produced out there in every activity that we do as a human being? Nowadays, with the advancements in computing technologies, or the chips, the microprocessors, so many of these devices have come, pocket held devices and handheld devices, which are so compact that you can utilize them anywhere to collect so much of data from every operation that you conduct. So all of these data, obviously, we need to analyze it before we can utilize it to make rational decisions. So in this context, obviously, precision agriculture is the term which we use it in agriculture a lot. It comprises of so many things, as I mentioned, the Internet of Things, big data analysis, that is using these huge amounts of data, terabytes of data sometimes, and understanding the trends or patterns that is happening in those data points, and then coming to a conclusion as to what might be a rational decision. Without the data, obviously, we made those decisions before, for the last 100 years, 200 years, when modern agriculture has started. And we have been making decisions. Many of them have done very well. But again, with this data, we want to improve the efficiencies of the farms, as well as other operations that happen all through the ag food supply chain system. And artificial intelligence, it is booming nowadays, as you all know, and that is also being utilized in agriculture in various ways. And all of these, along with machine learning, the synthetic intelligence that we are developing, can be used, optimized, and combined to make informed management decisions. That is the ground rule. What we are using all of these technologies is to make better decisions, better production decisions, better operational decisions, better marketing decisions, whatnot. So that is kind of where we are in terms of the precision agriculture. And I have some videos. I hope I can play them. These are kind of some of the very modern technologies. Some of them have been there for some time. I'll try. Each of those is obviously very, very short videos, about 1 minute or less than 2 minutes. So let me try and see this.
Nice.
Were you able to see that presentation, that
sir.
video?
No, sir.
No, right?
No,
Yeah,
sir.
let me share the entire.
I think you have to share that window
A
again.
desktop. Yeah, I need to share the desktop. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, sir. It's visible now.
It is visible, right? Yeah. Just give me a second. Sorry about this. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
So that is an example of a robotics weeder, which has been marketed less than maybe a year ago, and people are purchasing it, especially in California, where we are from. There is a huge labor shortage. So the weeding is a big problem in the crops, and I see that problem existing in many parts of India as well. Labor problem, availability of skilled as well as unskilled labor. So in that kind of circumstances, either you go for these chemical sprays, and obviously they have their own challenges, sustainability, environmental damage, whatever. And coming in that space is this new opportunity for these robotics. What they have done is basically they have utilized that machine which we have seen previously is a laser guided machine. Basically, the lasers are used to burn the weeds, just the weeds and not anything else. They feed the program in such a way that the machine can identify which plant it has to burn. So as long as that conforms to that specifications, the leaf and the other physiological aspects, that basically the lasers will go and burn it. And that is a kind of system that we are basically revolutionizing the entire weed control mechanisms. Of course, it is very expensive machine, but yeah, when there is no labor available for doing those operations, and consumers are demanding not so much chemical usage on the crops, this is what we are left with in some situations. So, and then we have these unmanned sprayers. That is a kind of, again, skilled labor is very expensive. So again, the same problem exists in many parts of the world, including in India as well. So what is the bypass? How do we control for that? Or it is basically the unmanned sprayers, basically. So either use drones to make the sprayers, or these heavy duty vehicles itself. And you might have seen
When you first see a Gus machine operating, it's overwhelming. And you realize it just immediately, like, this is the future of agriculture.
John Deere's reputation speaks for itself.
The video is
They're
not visible.
largest tractor
So can you
manufacturer
share
on
that
earth
particular screen?
and, hugely successful company.
When you look at what Gus knows and how close they are to the customer, and you look at what we wanted to accomplish as John Deere, this partnership was perfect.
I think there's a ton of good synergies between Gus Automation and John Deere, whether it comes from the technology side or really from the culture side of the company as well. And we definitely share a lot of the same philosophies of, really putting the grower first and putting our employees first.
John Deere, they are very technology focused. They see that we need to automate and use technology to keep feeding the world.
That's our number one goal, is to improve efficiency. And, if you look at the high value crop business, that's the only way we're going to get better, is to do more with what we already have, become more efficient. Nobody understood that customer need better than this team here, and they're here delivering to it every day.
We're going to continue to innovate because that's what really gets us excited, is new machines, new technologies, doing more and more for the growers out in the field to make their lives better.
We're a small company, but we're doing huge things.
You've got Gus, super smart, super nimble, extremely close to the customer. And you combine that with Deere's knowledge since 1837 in manufacturing, sourcing, supply base, 80,000 employees, we can do some pretty amazing stuff. I think about how much more efficient our customers are getting using this. They do the math, and it's a pretty easy value proposition. And so we just need to grow this business globally, and we're continuing to evolve it. Right? So it's getting better and better over time. It's getting more and more efficient over time, and easier to use. I'm extremely proud of the joint venture that we have together between Gus and John Deere.
And the last one, I want to show you the harvester, which is very interesting.
המערכת היא מערכת אוטונומית לגמרי, זאת אומרת החלטות, ההחלטה על איך לכתוב את הפרי
טכנולוגיה נכנסת לכל פינה מחי.
Yeah. Dr. Aditya, were you able to see the harvester video as well? Harvester and pollinators video?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So just wanted to show you those 3 video short clips of that. These links are available. By the way, the presentation can be shared with you all by Dr. Aditya later on. And the students especially. If as you can see, these are all kind of future equipment that are going to be utilized in various settings. And as you can see, labor is completely substituted. Of course, it is a lot of investment at this point, but there is competition that is happening between the firms, and more efficiencies are getting created. So the machines are becoming better and better. And that is all going to be affecting the profitability of the or the revenues that are being generated and the costs that are going to be incurred at a farm level, as well as beyond that. So what a consumer is willing to pay, what a farmer is or a producer is willing to spend, all of these issues are going to be dominant in the coming future, whether when they make those decisions, whether to go for these labor saving technologies or depend upon this expensive labor. Again, in places where there is still labor available, yeah, we don't need to worry about for present, but as we can see, the all over the world, you're seeing urban migration and other sociological factors that are happening, which is creating serious shortage of labor in the rural areas, which might be kind of pointing us towards these kinds of innovations. So there is, what I'm trying to say is there is this opportunity. Along with those missions come the need for skilled manpower. We need people who can maintain those equipment, people who can handle and operate those equipment. For that, obviously, we need a lot of training and knowledge sharing with people out there to create that skilled pool of labor, which is high paying, as well as which are more productive and efficient than unskilled labor. So that is what we are seeing out there, change in the, kind of pool of labor that we are going to be looking for. It is moving away from unskilled labor to more and more skilled labor. And of course, they are very expensive, but people are willing to pay for that. So that is one of the challenge as well as the opportunity for all of us. And then contributions of precision agriculture to food security and safety. I don't need to go through this slide. It is just, we all know how precision agriculture improves the efficiencies and which in turn creates better returns for the producers, and also those productivity or yield gains can be passed on to the final consumers and in some way or the other. So that is, everybody is getting benefited, but it takes time sometimes to adopt those technologies. There are so many drawbacks or so many barriers for these modern technologies to be applicable to farms. And these are some of the reasons for those low adoption rates that we see, which is basically the high cost of investment. The cost benefit ratios may not be equal. For maybe a big farm, like a 200-acre farm, maybe it works. But for a 10-acre farm, it may not be working out. So the cost benefit ratios are on a case-by-case basis. We need to study and understand whether what kind of technologies can be adopted by farmers in what kind of situations. And the farmers' perception of usefulness and their comfortability, their ability to utilize those technologies and their awareness and risk-taking attitude. There are so many factors. Again, challenges of time here, we may not be going in depth, but these are all the factors which we always study about adoption of new technologies. The same kind of barriers or challenges that you face will also be faced here, and we are facing them. And the next level of next type of technology is the blockchain technology. That is, as you might have heard, these are kind of technologies. It's a method of recording information that makes it difficult to change, hack, or manipulate. So as I said, a lot of, information is demanded by consumers nowadays. Consumers as well as other stakeholders in the market. The government might require a lot of information, where the particular crop has been grown, where it is being processed, where the animal has been has been there. If you are looking at meat processing facilities, they need to know where the animal, which facility the animal might have come, and where it got slaughtered, where it got processed, where the meat is ending up. Which market out there, which consumer finally, has consumed that. So that is the kind of details of that traceability that we are in. And because of the, fear about food safety that we are demanding from the producers and other stakeholders in the supply chain. So in that context, blockchain technology is the one which is being utilized, where data gets inputted into that system, into cloud-based systems, and where it is very difficult for somebody to go and manipulate that. And it is a decentralized ledger that duplicates and distributes transactions. And it has lots of applications, not only in agriculture, but everywhere else. But in agriculture, we are utilizing it to the fullest as well, and leveraging its capabilities to enhance the transparency, the traceability, efficiency, and trust in the food system out there. So that has worked wonders in many of the economies where consumers are demanding a lot of information about what they are consuming, where the fruit has been grown, what kind of chemicals have been utilized in producing those fruits and vegetables, and what kind of hormones have been injected into the animals which they are eating, and the meat of which they are eating. So all of these are possible because of this blockchain technology, which is as I listed down here, the supply chain traceability is one very important benefit out of these blockchain technologies. Authentication of inputs, again, the various inputs that are utilized by the producers. If you want to track and verify that, if the authenticity of that, then obviously this technology is being utilized. And market access and fair trade. Fair trade is a major movement that happens worldwide. Fair trade coffee, or there's so many commodities which are being traded in that way. So as a consumer, I would like to know for sure whether I'm paying that extra $1 to the coffee that I'm buying is coming from fair trade mechanism, or somebody is just claiming that it is fair trade. So in that kind of context, this blockchain technology, that QR code that is on the packet, that can give me all that information about where that coffee beans have been grown, where they have been processed, where they have been altogether before it came to me. So in that kind of context, it is a very efficient way of transferring the information and helping us to make better decisions as a consumer, as well as for the other supply chain members to get that trust and dependability on their suppliers and vendors. So that is one kind. And the next group of technologies, which we talked as biotechnology and bioengineering, here I'm calling them as bio-inspired technologies. So there are so many of these nowadays, and it is a new term that I came across recently. I was reading a publication from Deloitte Consultancy. They have done a beautiful analysis of the impact of these bio-inspired technologies on human welfare altogether from all angles, not only from agriculture and food point of view, but from human health perspective and other aspects that we are always straining the environment. So how these bio-inspired technologies, as you can see, there are the biofuels, next generation textiles, that is all these intensive chemical process are being avoided by using these genetically engineered bio-inspired technologies, and self-healing polymers, lab-grown meat, de-extinct animals. So that is kind of bringing back extinct animals into living. Oh, Jurassic Park, remember? So that is not talking about that, but there are so much of potential uses of these technologies in the future that we have to understand that scope of it. And as a future participant in that, all of you agribusiness students, you are going to be there in the field for the next 40, 50 years, right? So these are all the technologies you are going to be grappling with. You need to have a good grasp of these technologies, understanding of these technologies, so that you can make better decisions tomorrow. As employees of organizations, as managers of people out there in those organizations, lots of responsibilities will be on you to make the right decisions. So you'll be able to make right decisions only when you take into consideration all these different factors, different technologies that are out there that are going to be impacting the survival and the success of all the organizations and enterprises out there. So that is in that context. Yeah, I'll leave it to you. We'll come back to that if you have any questions. But this is our traditional biotechnology applications from one of the very old textbooks that I had, I guess from my undergraduate days. So these are all the systems out there that we use, procedures that are impacted by biotechnology in one way or the other, and living from pest-resistant crops to fortification and improved yields, fermentation, aquaculture applications, enzymes, biofuels, etc. So these are all going to be another group of technological improvements that are going to be impacting us. And the last one, which we grouped, the group that we want to talk about here, is the controlled environment agriculture. Here you can see two pictures. On the right hand side, you see this vertical farming. So when 20 years ago, when I was a student, it is kind of when we read about this vertical agriculture or this hydroponics and all that, and they were all, we thought, just is that really applicable? Do we really see that is going to happen, or is just experimental basis? We were really unsure how common it can become, how applicable it can come to the into our lives out there. But nowadays we see here in the places where we live in, very close to us, there are huge warehouses that are being utilized to grow these microgreens, to grow some of these herbs, on a vertical basis. Platforms of 3 or 4 racks of these microgreens, as you can see, that are being grown with LED lights, and some of them hydroponic, some of them are some special soils that they make, some cultures, and everything is so. And robotics are being utilized to harvest and move those trays or whatever you want to do. And it's a really eye-opening experiences, and that we are seeing them on a daily basis out there. Those are all the kinds of crops that are being utilized on our daily life here. Lots of restaurants, lots of other enterprises do buy them and utilize in their preparations. And the one which is on the left-hand side is a greenhouse tomato growing. And this is a very, very efficient enterprise, which is their yields. Tomato yields are kind of almost 3 times the natural yields that we see on a field-grown processing tomatoes out there. So that is kind of economics that they are playing with. So there is no doubt about the investments that go into that. Farmers just basically invest it because they see the returns, and the return on investment is going to happen within a couple of years, less than a couple of years sometimes. So in that kind of circumstances, these are the kinds of changing the dynamics of some of the entire commodities that we are seeing in our areas. So those are some of the technological factors, 4 factors that we talked about. And now looking at other sustainability factors. So climate change and farming associated changes in the farming system, that is one big challenge that our generation and future generations have to grapple with. And then sustainable practices, all of these organic farming, regenerative agriculture, watershed management, whatever out there. They're all sorry, somebody was asking if Hindi is possible, but I'm sorry, it is. I'll speak a little slowly, but I cannot converse in Hindi very comfortably. So, and the sustainable practices, organic farming, these are all some of the practices that we can, we are dependent upon, and we have to encourage. And then the food loss and waste reduction, that is another aspect which is a dominant feature or a problem that we are facing as a generation. So let me go a little deeper into each one of these. So climate change. So there are changes in the agricultural productivity that is happening because of the climate change right before our eyes. Every season we are seeing that, because of the longer growing seasons, longer summer sometimes or longer winter sometimes. It is changing the number of cropping days, that we have to keep the crop on the ground, and that is either sometimes extended, sometimes it is lesser than normal. So that is causing so much variation in the yields, that is affecting our farming systems in various ways. And air pollution, which is a kind of a common problem in so many of our regions, which is also damaging the crops, plants, and it is causing fires, and which is in turn affecting the air quality in various ecosystems. And warmer temperatures and changing precipitation also causes problems for bees, which are the major pollinators, where you have orchard crops and other crops which require pollination. So which is kind of a big problem. The bees are not coming out of their hives because it is too cold sometimes. And by the time the flowers are out, so you have to pollinate within that narrow window, which if you miss it, the entire yield will be depleted. So that is a kind of situation which we are seeing out there. And then the impacts of soil and water resources, because of the water quality issues due to excessive runoff because of heavy rains, or it is affecting the soil quality, and the sea level rises are happening because of the greenhouse effect that we always have talking about since our childhood. But unfortunately, no action is being taken so far, and that is a burden on our generation and future generations, definitely. These are some pictures out there. Left-hand side is a map of the United States, where you can see, the present day climate normals, 1991 to 2020. That is kind of where we are. And, plant hardiness zone is what we are measuring. The red indicates it's very hard to grow, some of the plants, or it requires special conditions to treatments to the plants in order for them to grow. Whereas blue is better. It is kind of temperate zones where they are growing. But as you can see, in the next 50 years, it is going to slowly, that hardiness zones are increasing in proportion compared to the zones which are less, which are more preferable for plants to grow. So the central part is what we call the hinterland of the United States, where the Great Plains, a lot of food grains get grown there. So that area is getting depleted, as you can see. So in the next 100 years, it is going to be very drastic, and which is going to bound to cause a lot of issues for the food security of not only United States but other countries which are dependent upon US food grains. And on the other right-hand side, you see these greenhouse gas emissions, which are going on unabatedly, which is kind of a worry for all of us. So as you can see, more and more people are consuming animal proteins, which is meat, basically, so which causes more emissions because of the intensity that we have to go through in developing those, in growing those crops or enterprises. So that is the problem. We are in a spiral, downward spiral, as I would say. To come out of that requires great actions by all over by governments and stakeholders all over the world. So we have to see the next 5-10 years is very crucial before we cross that threshold where, unfortunately, if nothing can be done beyond that threshold point. And these are some of the sustainable ag practices that we have been hearing, not only in the United States, but all over the world. Even in India, you might have seen so many of these, which are being promoted, encouraged. Millions of dollars or thousands of crores are being spent upon these sustainable ag practices that I know many of my friends back in India, some of your colleagues might be also in charge of some of these programs in your area. So these are all some of those mitigating actions that we have to take to come out of those problems, which I just mentioned. And food loss and waste, this is one thing which I want to focus, because this is a kind of a, very much in our hands. There is not much that we have to do in order to solve some of the problems that we are facing if you tackle these food loss and waste problems. So, for example, I don't have the ready statistics about global levels, but in the United States, the food waste is estimated between 30 to 40% of the food supply. That is I would say it's really criminal. 30 to 40% of the food supply is just wasted because of inefficiencies out there in the supply chain, or because of the consumers' bad preferences. They are not making good choices. Either they are buying too much, or they are putting too much on their plates, which they are not able to consume. They are just wasting it, which we call it as plate waste. So almost $161 billion worth of food is wasted in 2010, and it might have increased manyfold by now, 15 years from that point of time. And it occurs due to various, at every stage, right? From, the food loss, which we call it as the post-harvest losses. And that is the term which we use in, I think, in many circumstances. That is kind of, it happens right at the harvesting level, right at when you are putting out the truck to transport it to the, nearest market. In the market, because of lack of storage facilities, again, some of it get wasted. Every time you handle that food, handle those containers which are having those fruits and vegetables, many of them can have to be thrown out. And by the time it reaches the consumer, and, about 25% is wasted. And once it reaches the consumer, again, a lot of other elements happen. While cooking, you tend to waste, or you cook more than what you need, and after a couple of days, you may have to throw it out. So all of these kinds of things which happen, which are kind of under our control very much, and many of them, with simple changes in the technologies and the practices that we adopt, we can put a control over this. And these are where the food waste happens. This is out of a research study. Households, about 43% of the food waste happens right in the households because of not so awareness, the consumers having not so good awareness about that, or they are careless, or they don't just care about ignorance maybe sometimes. And restaurants, farms, supermarkets, and other areas where some of these food waste happens. And how do you reduce the food waste? First is food redistribution. If you think that the product is getting spoiled, utilize that in some other way. You don't need to take it to the market. Maybe you can send it to some other charitable organizations where food is distributed, or changing the consumer purchasing behavior. As you need to create that knowledge among the consumers that they need to buy what is essential for them and not more than what they need. So such kind, it takes time, it takes a lot of effort, but that is one thing which can be, when you are looking at 30% of the food being wasted just because of negligence, it is kind of very hard for, a lot of effort went into that. Producers, other input suppliers and other stakeholders, they have put in a lot of effort and a lot of hard work into growing that products, and now we are just wasting it. Doesn't sound good. And changing consumer preferences is the other factor that we need to grapple with. One is the e-commerce, again, blockchain technology being utilized to understand the consumer's preferences, big data applications, alternative protein sources. These are all driven from the consumer side. The consumers are demanding all of these newer information, as well as more, features in their products which they are going to be consuming, which creates this need for new technologies. So e-commerce, as you all know, it is booming right now. And if you look at the grocery purchases, only grocery, I'm not talking about non-food items, just the grocery, not even food service, but just the grocery items, it has, it is expected to grow more than up to almost $400 billion by 2028. And even in India, it has, in 2019, it was only $1 billion approximately, and it is in 2024, it is $14 billion. That is online grocery sales. So that is kind of multiplying every year. So that is a very fast-paced growth. So that is where jobs are also going to be. If you are going to be in the job market very soon, these are some of the opportunities that you have. A very good grasp of these factors of how e-commerce works and what are the different platforms that are being utilized. Once you understand them, you'll have a very good potential to go into those kinds of sectors. And all these figures do not take into account other food service segments. If you take all these food service segments like Zomato and all those kinds of features, it is going to be much, much higher than what these numbers that I have shown. And big data, that is, we talked about it, and there are lots of opportunities in that area, we call it as business analysts or data analytics. You might have come across that term. That is where many of the jobs are getting created. And even in the agriculture, food realm out there, in the kind of sector, you are seeing a lot of applications of this big data, and having an understanding of agriculture and food system, and also some kind of programming or some kind of analytical skills out there to understand simple statistics and provide some visualization methods like producing graphs, or how to show that patterns that you are seeing in the big data by a graph or kind of a picture. Once you have those kinds of skills, you'll be a hot cake in the market out there. You'll be taken by these firms with very good pay packages. So what I'm showing here in this picture, again, this is a borrowed picture from one of the documents which I was referring to. So there are jobs in big data acquisition, collecting data using surveys. Dr. Kaundinya is going to be talking about those methodologies, but that is where you do go out there, collect consumer-based attitude surveys or their preferences by surveys, or by understanding their behavior in the supermarkets. Following the sales data in supermarkets, you'll understand which kind of consumer is purchasing what. So you collect all of that data, and then big data processing and fusion. again, jobs are out there where you need to have expertise in handling this big data, grouping them into similar groups, and then sorting them, and then applying machine learning aspects to that. So just to understand the trends, or the kind of what is happening superficially, and then big data mining and analysis. So finally, you bring out some trends out there. How do you analyze that? How do you utilize that information in making better decisions for tomorrow? So all of this is the big data mining and analysis, which requires some kind of statistical, modeling, statistical skills out there. So econometrics. So these are the kinds of jobs that demand those skills. And finally, big data visualization and application. So how will you present that data in a user-friendly format? So again, all of these softwares that we utilize, like SAS or SPSS or even Excel for that point, they are very powerful softwares. You need to learn those softwares. And for undergraduate students, start learning Excel. That is going to be, it's a basic requirement. But if you want to be successful, you need to know Excel. And other softwares, once you know Excel, you can easily transfer those skills to get knowledge about other softwares. But they have all of these, abilities to do all of this big data processing, mining, and visualization. So it is a very powerful software that I would recommend you to put focus upon and spend some time in understanding that software, so that you'll have that very important skill when you go into the job market. And then alternative protein sources. This is kind of, again, because of demands of the consumers out there, you're seeing this lab-grown meat or plant-based proteins. The demand for that is booming. And it is right now, compared to the animal-based proteins, quite small, but it is growing in a very fast-paced manner. The alternative protein market is a market size of almost $14 billion in United States, and it is growing at the rate of 10%. So there is a very good opportunity for somebody who wants to start a new business or new venture out there. Maybe this is a kind of venture that you might want to think about. So these are some trends in the consumer interests in alternative protein diets. As you can see here, 10-year cumulative annual growth rate, vegan population, that is people who don't consume any animal sources of food, like even dairy is no for them. So that is growing at the rate of 16% for the last 10 years. And dairy free is 22%. Vegetarian is growing among, again, so much. So all of these are kind of putting in new demands on the food system to produce. So the next graph it shows what are the new product releases with all these elements fit into that. For example, in 2007, there are only, all of these vegan, dairy-free, vegetarian, less than 200 of the new products which are produced at that time, or maybe less than 500 of them had these features built into that. But now in 2016, 10 years from that point of time, you can see almost it multiplied by 4 times, which include all of these elements into the offering for the consumers, because consumers are demanding such kind of features into the food products that they consume. So these are all the opportunities, again, that are out there for somebody looking for starting new ventures or having that entrepreneurial spirit of mind. And finally, we have these global political and economic factors. Again, these are, again, so much that I just try to list them down. No matter what kind of technological development you have, no matter what kind of resources you have, finally, sometimes it comes to only the political will. The political system has to, chaperone those technologies, and, they should have that right attitude towards growth of agriculture in that country, and then only it happens. And I'm sure that is a challenge for many countries out there. And in spite of the private sector's impetus on these different technologies, sometimes because of the regulations, they may not be able to adopt them or make the producers adopt them as much as they wanted to. And of course, food safety and other quality standards and other globalization factors always play a role in determining the outcomes of the agricultural and food sector. So at this point, entrepreneurship and innovation. So what I'm trying to say is all of these challenges and all of these trends that we have seen in different groups, they're all going to create opportunities for entrepreneurs to start new ventures. So there is need for climate resilience technologies, how do we control for this climate change that is creating havoc in so many countries? Ease in access to farmers' inputs. Farmers are finding difficulty in accessing good quality inputs, good quality seeds, good quality fertilizers, chemicals, or other technologies, or equipment. So there is a very good opportunity for somebody to go and offer those facilities on a pay-per-use basis or any of that kind. Post-harvest loss, this is the food loss that I was talking about, food loss and food waste. So there are lots of opportunities again to prevent that food loss and bring it back into the market and basically monetize. We call it as monetization. Monetization of that post-harvest losses is very, very crucial. And internet penetration in rural area, India is growing very fast in that respect, but still there are gaps out there where there is potential. And what are the factors driving the growth of agri startups in in India and moreover everywhere else is the inadequate and unstructured data. A lot of data is being generated. Utilize that data to make better decisions and use that data to pass on that analysis to decision makers. And there you can play a very important role. Lack of access to high quality inputs, inefficient supply chains, high cost of equipment, which is kind of an opportunity for somebody to offer those services on a rental basis. And then lack of finance, farmers, in spite of all the efforts by the government, still there are pockets of farmers out there who are unable to access capital markets. So they are unable to get the loans very easily. So that is where the potential is there for micro lending enterprises or any other innovations that can happen. So that is depending upon the need in that kind of sector, you have to come up with those solutions which are fitting those situations. So that is what is a little bit about entrepreneurship. Again, we'll talk about during the question answer session if somebody wants to know much more than that, but I'll leave the floor now to Dr. Kaundinya to talk about agribusiness education and evaluation aspects. Vikram.
Okay. So what I'm going to cover in the next 15 minutes before we can open it up for questions is the first part I'm going to cover is agricultural business education. What are some of the learning outcomes that agribusiness graduates have to kind of acquire to be successful in whichever path they take after graduation. Dr. Aditya Sinha shared the curriculum and I went through the courses and I was able to find at least a couple of courses, ABM 528, which talks about ag extension management, and then there is ABM 534, which are minor courses. I think maybe minor means optional. So there is this human resource competence and capacity building systems. So after going through that curriculum, we came up with a list, we gleaned a list based on our experiences of teaching here and also what's available in the literature. So we've come up with some of the desirable learning outcomes all the students should aim to cultivate when they're still in college, right? When they're still in the program, if you can focus on learning as much as you can, and then when you get into the workforce, that there's always a scope to learn on the job. So the first thing obviously will be your subject matter expertise, right? Like technical competence. So knowledge about whatever your focus is currently and what you aspire to become in the future, that should be the number one skill that you have to focus on. And then utilizing all the appropriate methods and technologies like Dr. Srini was covering what's coming up as the trends and opportunities especially, right? There's always going to be a problem. Like as long as there is an innovation or there is a startup, there is going to be issues and problems. So how we can turn the problems into opportunities and kind of create some employment around that will be the key to success. And then even though you'll focus more on your subject matter area, like familiarity with the current global trends, with the concepts, terminology, at least a little bit of awareness will be needed. That's a good outcome to aim for. And then when we come to professional development, right, in addition to what you learn in the subject matter in the coursework, there's always professional development that is needed to kind of comprehend the micro and the macro forces that are affecting the system right now. And then the pragmatic knowledge, right? The theoretical knowledge is all good, but that's going to take us only to a certain extent. But after that, to succeed and make an impact in the careers, we need to have pragmatic knowledge, practical experience, and capability to work in teams. And then the most important thing, I'll cover a little bit later, ethical standards, right? Whatever your university has as ethics, for example, the use of generative AI, right? Artificial intelligence. So be very clear about what is ethical when you are doing your coursework and also when you enter into your workforce, right? And then as I was looking through the curriculum Dr. Aditya shared, I also follow some of his LinkedIn posts. So I see that there is some kind of an activity happening around like team building, right? Recently, I saw one of his posts where he was sharing how he had the students participate in a pipeline game. And that was theoretically kind of designed, right? He says that he used Bloom's taxonomy to kind of get people to the pragmatic stage and kind of inculcate team building, principles of team building. I find those kind of activities to be very, very important in curriculum. And I'm happy that that is being covered in Bihar Agriculture University. And then the next outcome that we all should aim for is problem solving skills, right? So world is never going to be ideal. There will always be problems. So how we solve those problems and how we can adapt, right? So identifying a problem, evaluating it, and then formulating all the possible solutions. And once we have all the solutions formulated, selecting the best solution and implementing it and evaluating it. I'll cover evaluation a little bit later, will be very important. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the next learning outcome that is a desirable one to be successful in career is my focus area and also expertise area is program development and evaluation. So here, if you have these outcomes, right, like you will have a better ability to identify a need and then develop a program or a business, like a startup business or whatever, based on the identified need. So there is a better chance for success when it is developed based on an identified need. Then there's a better chance of success. And then implement it and don't assume once you start implementing a program or start a business, even though it's based on a need, things are never going to happen in a linear fashion. So you have to have a robust evaluation plan to measure the impact, because there is always a possibility to, for your program or your business or ag startup, to kind of result in some unintended negative outcomes. So we should be having robust methods to capture not only what we anticipate to achieve, but also a plan to document any unanticipated changes that may be happening, which may have negative effect on the environment or yourself or your clientele, right? And then definitely use the data, like how Dr. Srinivas was covering. Use of data is really, really important. Then some soft skills, right? Communication skills are very, very important, like both oral and written proficiency. Again, it's not to be confused with English speaking skills. It's the ability to communicate very clearly in whatever language, right? Hindi is fine, Telugu is fine, whatever language is fine. But proficiency in communication is very, very important. And for written proficiency, right? Like even in our classes here, students are using that, for example, ChatGPT. So come up with like ethics or some guidelines on what is appropriate, like what is the acceptable use of ChatGPT, because it saves your time and also it improves proficiency, right? You are still giving it the command, right? So you are in control, but you are using the technology to assist your writing. And again, as I said, it's not about English. Do not confuse with English speaking skills. It is about speaking, communicating clearly in whatever language you talk, right? And then leadership is really important because it's about having the ability to embrace positive change, taking the initiative, building teams, and most importantly, taking responsibility for not only success, but also for failure. The leader has to take responsibility for failure also. And then even though we listed it towards the last, networking abilities are really important because they are important to build and maintain relationships with the people who you'll be working with. Next slide, please. Yeah, in the next 10 minutes, I'll just cover a little bit about the role of evaluation in agribusiness management. As I said, when I reviewed the curriculum shared by Aditya, I found a couple of courses loosely related to evaluation, but I don't know how much is being covered. But evaluation competencies are really important in any field, right? It's about developing evaluative thinking, whether it is a social science or whether it is like a soil science, production ag, agronomy, ag business, any field, evaluation competencies and evaluative thinking is very important. So these competencies can be learned from your coursework, but maybe ag business management may not have that much evaluation courses, but there are definitely professional development workshops. I'll share in the next slides what are some of the sources that you can explore. And then online evaluation courses, some of them are paid, some of them are available freely, like YouTube videos. And evaluation competencies play a very important role if you want to become an entrepreneur, right? And then they play a very important role in securing funding, then implementing your project based on a logic I'll cover in the next slide, and then measuring your outcomes, whatever is coming out of your ag startup or ag business or a program, and then assessing its impact and also reporting impact. Because if you don't report impact, then there's not a future chance for continued funding. Next slide, please. So a little bit in depth about role of evaluation. I've broken it down into 3 phases. So first one is funding phase, right? So let us assume it is in the context of an ag startup. So you have to conduct a needs assessment. Not only you identify the needs, why, like where you should focus, like what idea you should focus in your ag business. And then after the needs are identified, usually you end up having more needs, like more than one need identified. And then use some criteria to prioritize the needs that are identified and focus your business on that. And then using some kind of a logic, like if you do this, why do you think that whatever you are hoping to achieve will happen? And then definitely have some theory of change. I can suggest some literature around the theory of change. It's a science that says, if you do a particular thing, like if you invest something and do some things, you are expecting some results to come out. So that should be based on a robust scientific framework. And during the implementation phase, once you start a program, have a program logic model or a log frame to guide the process, and also definitely have a plan to measure the outcomes. And when you come to the completion phase, it's always better to assess the impact, because usually impact happens after a long time, like 5 years or 10 years. So you cannot most likely measure the impact in the first or second year. So then you would use the research to use your behavior change related or option related outcomes to assess or predict a long-term impact. And then you have to report accomplishment. You have to tell your story successfully. There, the communication skills are very important. Again, I'm repeating this again. So don't confuse communication skills with English. Whatever language you speak, the communication skills have to be good. Next slide, please. So this is a very popular framework, logic model that we use to conceptualize change effort. So if you're doing something, what is the issue, why you are doing it? So the background, rationale, the clientele needs, everything there. If you want to start up again in the context of an ag startup, agricultural startup, a business, right? A small business, for example. And then what are you investing into it? And then all the activities that you do. And if you do all of these things, what do you expect to happen as a result of that business? So there should be like a clear logic, and this will help you distinguish between what you do and what you achieve. So this is a very common pitfall that I observed in my career, in my teaching to students, and also when I work with our extension educators, because I teach my students and also the extension educators. I do some adult education professional development. So they confuse what they do as the success. So it's never about what you will do. It's not the success, right? So what we achieve, even though we do a lot of great work, it may not result in the type of impact that we want to achieve. So there should be a clear plan to illustrate this assumed chain of connections that is leading to an end, right? And again, this program logic model is again should be considered as a draft version, and we should be open to changes that happen. Next slide, please. So I came up with a list of evaluation competencies that you are interested. You all can try to learn. I'll share some resources where you can find training related to this. So most important thing is needs assessment. We should have competencies in needs assessment. And then in articulating a theory of change and logic, program logic, you don't have to use program logic model, but whatever logic works for you, like log frames or anything that you can use. And what I found is for evaluating the programs or like any events that you do, survey writing is very important. And the skills in surveys that I worked with several students in India, there's a big room for improvement. We still don't know how to write good surveys, and that's not uncommon. Here also, there's a lot of room for improvement. And as Dr. Srini was covering, data analysis is like really, really important. It's not about, we don't need to be like super advanced or super high level in statistics. If you have that skill, definitely develop it, because the statistical skills and quantitative and qualitative data analysis also will be really helpful in securing good jobs. But if statistics is not your area, it's not your strength, then learn at least some basic statistics. That's going to be very important. And then clearly understand the difference between research and evaluation, right? Research is different from evaluation. Then I'll share some resources if you're interested. There are like 2-hour videos that I've developed, you all can watch. So I just wanted to keep it a very big picture. And then writing reports, like use generative AI, use the ethical standards, definitely use. And then data visualization, infographics is really, really important to be successful in an ag business career, especially if you want to become like an entrepreneur versus if you want to get into research or academia as a professor. And then reporting the impact. Storytelling is really, really important, because you have to find ways where you don't use any jargon at all. You have to use very common, simple words. So that's a different skill set, and we all need training for that. Next slide, please. So here are some of the professional development opportunities if you're really interested in evaluation. There is an American Evaluation Association conference coming up in October. This will be in Oregon in the US. And then next year, 2025, there is a conference in Inverness, Scotland, which is halfway for you. Like if faculty, if you have funding or interest, you can try to kind of attend. They're opening up the call for proposals soon. And then there is a Summer Evaluation Institute for the American Evaluation Association. And then the last two, the Evaluation Center at Western Michigan State University. They have online evaluation courses. They are like all, you have to pay a fee, but if you have professional development money, I would highly encourage you to pick the one that works for you. And then there is Claremont Graduate University. So these are like two very reputed sources. Next slide, please. And this is the evaluation training series, annual training series that my team lead. We lead for our extension, county extension educators who are comparable to the agriculture officers in India. So I organize these 2 hours trainings. So the topics, you can see the topics here. So, and then the left side of the screen, there is a web page, our university web page, where we housed all these evaluation resources. And then last year's recorded trainings for all the 10 to 11 topics are there. So as I said, there are 2-hour trainings. So if you have interest and if you have time, you can just watch it, because I'm going to share this with Dr. Aditya. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is what we wanted to cover, give an overall big picture overview. Thank you, Dr. Aditya and Dr. Srivastava for this invitation. And now we can take any questions if you have any.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vikram and Dr. Srini. It was really a pleasure listening to both of you, and we have really got a lot of insights from you. So, sir, we have 2 questions in the chat box. If you can please answer those. So the first question is, what is the role and perspective of developing alternate meat in reducing carbon emission globally? So, Srinivas sir, if you could answer this question. Sir, you are
muted.
The question is, what is the role of alternate meat in
What is the role and perspective of developing alternate meat in reducing carbon emission globally?
Oh, okay. As I showed in one of those pictures, the carbon emissions that are happening with having meat consumption that happens, it is quite high compared to the plant protein sources. So that is a direct, we can directly allude to that picture to understand how the impact on global, on the environment or the carbon emissions is going to be when we shift to these plant-based proteins from animal-based proteins. So, but again, it's not so easy to convert attitudes of the people. We cannot just go and say and leave alone. They'll listen to that argument that, it's such a difficult argument to put forward somebody to make them consume less meat or no meat at all. So there are, obviously, we need to find ways to reduce this emissions that are happening from animal farms. So there are so many studies that have happened in my region, California, where they have studied using some of those feed grains, some are not feed grains, feed additives, which can reduce the emissions of this methane and other gases from the animals when they consume those these traditional feed grains. And that is one thing which a lot of effort is being put into. And also there is genetic engineering that is being used to reduce that production of methane and other gases when you are consuming some of these feed by the animals. So there are efforts being put on various sides, but the results are very clear. If we want to reduce the carbon emissions that are happening from agriculture, we have to, have to see some shift in the preferences from the consumers regarding their consumption of meat. So we have to, there are so many new ventures that are coming out nowadays, even on insect farming. That is another source of protein. Maybe not right now, maybe 20 years from now or 30 years from now, our future generations of people may not have so many inhibitions that we might have right now in consuming insects as protein sources. But that is a crucial problem that we have to resolve. So I don't know if I answered the question, but in short, there is definitely a big role that plant-based proteins will be having in reducing the emissions that is happening from agriculture.
Sure, sir. So the second question, what are the ways to reduce food wastage? What are the steps organizations are taking for reducing it? Any machinery introduced for this?
Yeah, food waste, again, it happens at different stages, right? So there is food waste that happens when it is being harvested. Harvesting happens out there when you're harvesting, let's say, fruits and vegetables in an orchard. A lot of wastage happens right there in the, some fruits might fall there, or they are over ripened, and there are different levels that we can utilize. So some of those fruits, for example, they are not taken to the market because they are just off shape. They are not an apple, for example. If it is really an oval shaped apple, it doesn't have market value. Consumers out there have a specific perspective about an apple. An apple should look round, red, and that is what many of the consumers are basically looking for. If it is in kind of an irregular shape, or the color is not good, but imagine that the nutrition impact is going to be the same, but still consumers may not be willing to purchase such kind of apples. So that is a kind of a consumer awareness issue. There can be, a lot of awareness that can be created. Even some firms recently in the United States, what I have seen, there are some firms which have come up, which just collect all of these irregular shaped fruits and vegetables and market it at a discounted prices. An apple out there, let's say it is costing $1 a fruit, this irregular shaped apple might be sold for 30 cents. And there are consumers who understand that there is no, it is just this, cosmetic value associated to that. And if they understand the difference, that nutritionally it is not going to be making much difference, they'll pay only that 30 cents instead of paying $1 for that fully, round red apple, which is providing the same kind of nutrition to the consumer out there. So there is that awareness that can be created out there. Again, it is not easy. It is an attitude-based behavioral change, right? It's not going to happen so easily, as you all know, in extension. And regarding the equipment, that part of the question, yeah, there are some, facilities which are basically the storage facilities that have to be created for such fruits which are spoiling very quickly. A lot of, I think, wastage happens, or losses happen, post-harvest losses in India happen because of lack of, infrastructure or, cold storage facilities. So once you create that cold storage facilities and refrigerated transportation facilities, that's a big investment. Crores of, hundreds and thousands of crores of rupees have to be spent in that infrastructure. But once you create that, this can be avoided to a large extent. Yeah.
I just have a little bit to chime in here. So Dr. Srini covered everything. So one other thing that I have found is a barrier to kind of getting at kind of affecting the behavior change. The teams that work on increasing the awareness or research, they are not transdisciplinary, right? Like there is one part where it is interdisciplinary, where the different departments within a college collaborate. But if it has to be transdisciplinary also, like it has to be social scientists, it has to be engineers, it has to be production agriculture experts, extension education people. All of them have to work as a team to kind of raise awareness about the negative implications of food loss and food waste. So that I don't think is happening to that extent anywhere, like not only in the US or India, but what I observed even outside. And on the evaluation again, right, you don't evaluate properly how your efforts are working, then you don't know, right, where to improve.
Right, sir. So there is another question. Do you offer opportunities for undergraduate agriculture students from Indian universities to pursue a master's degree at your university after completing their bachelor's? So you can go to the websites, to the respective websites, University of California, DS, and University of West.
Yeah, so I actually replied in the chat. Yeah, there are master's programs here that are relevant to ag business. They may not be directly in ag business, but that are relevant to ag business. And I think Dr. Srini's department is ag business, so there is some scope there. And there are like so many other universities. Like if the student is particularly interested, they can reach out to us via email and we can provide more details.
In US, approximately, I don't know the exact number, but there are at least 30 to 40 universities which offer graduate programs in agricultural business or agricultural economics. And many of them do offer PhDs as well. So, but I suppose whoever has asked, they know the procedures, right? The procedures to apply is kind of long term. Like you have, in order to get admission, for example, for the upcoming August fall admissions, which we call, that is the admissions, if you are aiming for, you should be starting, for example, if you are aiming for August 2025, as your admission for that program, you have to start your process by December of 2024. By that time, you should have written your GRE or GMAT, whatever they have asked, and you have to start putting in the application, recommendation letters and everything, so that you'll have a very good chance to apply for financial aid, which is very much important when you are studying in the United States, because it is quite expensive. So you have to plan really by third year, by middle of third year, you should have made a decision where you are going to be applying and what the plan should be in place. It is not just a last minute thing that you do in the last 2 months and okay, I apply and I'll try to get the admission. It's not, it might have happened for somebody, but it is not the right way to go about it.
Right, sir. So there's another question regarding University of Queensland. So it ranks 40 in QS ranking, and a participant has applied for this university for February 2025 intake. So what do you think about the university and scope of agribusiness in Australia? So, sir, if you can respond to this, if you have any idea regarding jobs in Australia.
Vikram, you want to take it?
Yeah, I don't have any idea about. I don't want to kind of speculate and give wrong advice. I can
But,
I can tell in US, but outside US, I don't know. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't know.
Again, one thing with just general knowledge, yeah, Vikram is right. I don't want to comment upon something which we are not in position to like experienced it. But Australia as such is a very big agribusiness player. If you look at the international trade, agricultural commodities, Australia is a major player, and there is a lot of scope. Expansion is happening in their agricultural production and activities. There's a lot of scope there, definitely, but I'm not sure as an international student, if you are going there, what kind of loops you have to undergo to get a job. Sometimes the immigration rules and all of those will be acting as a barrier. So wherever you go, if you are migrating to another country, yeah, being a student is different from getting a job out there. There are lots of immigration aspects that you need to take into consideration, and you should do adequate research before you take that step. Don't assume that just by graduating you'll get a job and you'll be able to work here, because there are lots of regulations that govern if you have to be legally working here in many of the countries in the Western world.
Yeah, and also one more advice that I just wanted to give based on this is coming from my experience in the last 2 to 3 years. In addition to the test scores, right, the IELTS or GRE or whatever the grades that you get, it's always good to have your professors or like your advisors or whoever is a guide in the department to evaluate your chances for success. Because what I've been observing here is the quality has been going down with students. I don't know all the factors why it's happening, but in addition to the test scores, it is always good to have your professor evaluate your potential for success, because it's not good after you come here you struggle to succeed, right? Then that's going to be an issue. As Srini was sharing, the jobs are not going to be easy, but if you're really good, then you should get it. But just make sure that you are really passionate about what you want to do.
Thank you, sir, for your insights. So if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and ask. I have given the permission to unmute yourself. So you can just unmute and ask if you have any questions. So, sir, I think there are no more questions. So thank you so much, sir, for this session. It was really very insightful, and I hope all the students of agribusiness management of our college, they have got a lot of insights from this, and they're going to gain a lot from this session. And they're always free to contact you. You have also said your email ID in the chat box. So that is so kind of you. So they can also reach you in case of any difficulty. So on behalf of my university, sir, and on behalf of my director of research, who was the chairman of this session, and Dr. J.N. Srivastava, who is the Director of Students Welfare, under which we are operating this Center of Excellence in Teaching and Learning. I would like to thank both of you for taking your precious time. And I know that it is night over there, so you have taken so much pain for us. So we are really thankful to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thanks for
Dr.
the
Aditya,
opportunity.
for your opportunity for interacting with your students and faculty, and looking forward to continue this dialogue by emails and other means.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we would also like to hear more on evaluation, and so we'll be contacting you. And the students are really interested because they don't know our students. They don't know much about evaluation in agribusiness because we are mostly an agricultural university. This is a newly introduced course, so we'll be getting guidance from both of you. So thank you.
And by the way, I commend you for such a terrific curriculum you have developed for the program. I have gone through the courses. They are really good. It's a very good plan that you have. Good luck, and we wish you all the best in taking the program to great heights. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So the participants, you are requested to fill the feedback form, and also we will be sharing the slides with you, and also we will try to share the recordings also with you. So thank you so much for joining. So thank you again, sir, for your kind.
Thank you. Bye.